Got one of these that are turned around the wrong way? Let me show you how to fix that along with replacing the whole lockbox in this door. Let's get started. So one thing you can do to turn this around is you can take the lockbox out of the door, which I'm going to show you how to do, to move this little lever up here, up like that, which releases the mechanism, and you can flip it around that way, or I'm going to show you an easier way. So what you can do is you go ahead and take these two screws out here, remove this cover plate, and that's going to expose you to a little access hole above here. So let's get this out of here. And then see this little hole here? If you got a little hook like this, what you can do is you're not pulling or pushing or anything. You're just taking this in here and you're just going to push down like this. So you can actually go like this and just press straight down like that. And that releases this mechanism, and you can turn it around and push it back in. If you want to see that again, go down. You're just pushing down, you're not moving or anything. And that goes just like that. A lot easier than having to replace or taking out the whole lockbox, isn't it? So since we got that flipped around the proper way, all you have to do is just put this cover plate back on, put your screws in, just like that, and put this other one in, and you're done. So now, let me show you how to replace the whole lockbox. Let's get started. We'll go ahead and get started by removing the screws from the panel side. If you remove the screws from the jamb side or where the frame is, it's a little harder, especially if you're by yourself, when you take it off or put it back on to reassemble the door. I find that it's easier because this is a pocket. It's a mortise pocket with this hinge. It's easier to work with just by removing it on that side. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, we got all our screws removed, and we'll go ahead and take the door off. And I'm doing this by myself, so it is a little tricky. And just go ahead and kind of lift. Sometimes you have to lift up, down, in, and out to break these hinges free of this pocket. So let's go ahead and set this door down, and let me show you how to take it apart. Okay, first we're going to go ahead and, I'm sure you can see there's a couple Allen head screws here. We're going to go ahead and take this lever off by taking this screw. And if these screws are sitting proud of this handle, more than likely when your installer put these handle sets on, he could have put the spindle on wrong, or he didn't tighten these enough. This is the proper way to install the spindle. There's a split spindle, and see how the screw lines up with here? Well, if you took this spindle and put it where the set screws on this flat surface, your handle is going to keep falling off every time. And Marvin makes on this little Allen head screw, there's a little tip. I'm sure it's going to be a little hard for you to see, but there's a little tip that's supposed to penetrate this, as you can see, because this is one of our displays. This handle's been taken off several times, but it's actually supposed to penetrate that metal there, and that way the handle doesn't fall off. And the reason why they do this is that way they can use this handle for a left door or a right door. By making this spindle universal this way, you just have one part instead of having a left handle set and a left handle set and a right handle set. You can use the same handle set for either door. So that's why they do that. So we'll go ahead and remove this escutcheon plate, and we do that by removing these two screws. That part that just fell down, don't lose that. You need that. So we got that loose. We're going to go ahead and take this handle off, and we're going to go ahead and set it to the side. Okay, we'll go ahead and remove this cover plate. And then once we get this cover plate off, there's another screw here that we need to take out. So we'll go ahead and remove that. Now it's time to remove the rods. Let's go ahead and get started. We'll go ahead and start and take this in-bolt guide out. I believe that's what it's called. And then you just take a slotted screwdriver. Don't be afraid to, if you damage any wood there, because you're not going to see it, and just pop it out like that. And then now you can take the handle set you just took off, or if you got one of these, you're going to have to put it in the door, press this little black safety tab in, and you're going to lift up like that to extend the rod. And now it gives you access to take the rod out. So we'll go ahead and do the same thing for the top rod. Okay, we'll go ahead and take this one out. We'll go ahead and get that out of the way. Take the screw out. Take your slotted screwdriver, pops out like that. Then press the little black tab in here, lift up, extend the rod, and screw it counterclockwise, just like that. Okay, now be sure to, because if you try to pull it out right now, it's not going to come out. So be sure to go ahead and push down on it to release the mechanism, and that will allow you to remove your box. And now you can take and replace it with your brand new one. Just make sure that the latches are the same way as I showed you earlier in the video, how to turn those around. You can, again, if you need to, you can just, on this one here, you can just go like that to flip it around if you need to. So we'll go ahead and put the new box in the door and reverse the order. Okay, now that we put the new lockbox in, I would not put this cover plate on yet. I would go ahead and put the rods in first, because sometimes these little, where these rods go into, sometimes these move a little bit like that. So sometimes you may have to move this box up or down when you put the rods in. So we're gonna go ahead and extend the hardware by pushing this in, lifting up on the handle. Let me show you so you can see it. You lift up on the handle like that, and then we'll go ahead and put our rods in. So before we put this rod in, I'm starting at the top first. Marvin uses this alignment nut, and it's supposed to be on there with some Loctite. So that way when you put this in the door, it lines up perfectly with the lockbox, because when they assemble this door, this style is actually laying on a table, and a guy goes and pushes this in on the table, and everything's assembled. So if you see that this is loose, go ahead and put some Loctite on it, make sure it's all the way up, and then we'll go ahead and insert it. And since we've already lifted up on the handle set there, just gently go in, and sometimes you have to wiggle up or down. And then once you get it started, you can pull on it. If you can pull on it and it doesn't come out, you know you got it in the box. And go ahead and righty-tighty. And this is supposed to stick out about 1 inch. And so you notice there's a bevel. Okay, so on this one, because this is an in-swing door, we want, when we extend these rods, for this panel to go tight against the weather stripping. So when you lift up on the handle, this bevel is going to lead the door tighter to the weather stripping. If this were an outswing door, it would be the opposite. So be mindful of that. Okay, we'll go ahead and put our in-bolt guide in there. Be mindful of chips in here. Sometimes there's little splinters of this LVL, this laminated veneer lumber, when you put that in there. So once you get that in there, go ahead and try this a couple times. Pushing that in, make sure it throws. Yeah, let's put the screw in there and see how it works here. Go ahead and put our screw in. And we'll lift up. And it works really smooth, so that's good. So we'll go ahead and get the bottom one in. Same thing as the top rod. We're gonna go ahead and make sure that this is extended all the way. We're gonna go ahead, put the rod in, make sure the alignment nut's on there. It's not tight. And sometimes you may actually have to hold this like this as you're putting it in, because when you're pushing in on it, the lockbox itself can retract. And again, because this is an in-swing door, that's supposed to extend almost 1 inch from the base to the tip. So we got it like that. Pop that in there like that. Okay, it retracts. We'll go ahead and put our screw in. Okay, we'll try the hardware a couple times. Works great. We'll go ahead and put our cover plate on. Okay, go ahead and take this out. Before I forget to tell you, please use the Marvin screws that come with this. If you were to put a drywall screw that's really long, and I've seen this several times, or someone will lose these screws, and they end up using a really long screw. Well, when you put a long screw in here, it's going to go right through the rod. So when you go to extend the hardware, it's not going to work. So I thought I'd point that out to you. Go ahead and put that screw in. And where it says Marvin stamped on it, it should go on this way. You can't put it on this way, it's blank, but you can see there's no chamfer for the screws, so it does go on a specific way. And we'll go ahead and put those in, and then we'll go ahead and put our handle set on. Okay, since our door is unlocked, we need to make sure our handle set is unlocked. First, do that by making sure that the key is not in the door, because if you put this key in here, this is going to be spinning around and you can put it on, and that's going to cause all kinds of trouble. So, since this door, when you lock it, you turn the thumb turn this way. That's how it locks. So we need to make sure this is in the opposite direction, because if you put this on in the lock position and put it on there, you can't lock a lock that's already been locked twice. So make sure that's in the unlocked position. Make sure that lines up with that. Okay, we're going to make sure that little spacer is on there. Put that on there like that. And then we'll go ahead and put this side on. But now is a good time also to test this thumb turn, make sure it spins freely. Sometimes you may need to spray a little lube on there, or sometimes you can just take a hammer and just tap it to loosen that up to make it spin a little easy. So don't be afraid to do that. Okay, we'll make sure we got that little spacer that fell off earlier. Get that on there. And then that'll be a good time just to make sure everything works before we screw it in. So, but turn that, make sure it, oh, see, I come undone, so make sure that's on there. Easier said than done, right? We'll go ahead and put our screws in. Get those started. Okay, so we're not going to tighten these all the way yet. We're just going to get those so the handle doesn't fall off. We're going to make sure that these are squeezed together. Everything works great. Now we can go ahead and tighten this up the rest of the way. And then we'll go ahead and take our little wrench here, make sure these are squeezed together. And you should never see the bottom of this screw. It should be flush. Okay, getting that tight in there. And go ahead and don't be afraid to go ahead and make sure that you really push this down and make sure it's really tight, because you don't want this handle to come off. So don't be afraid to give it a little oomph just like that. Check the top one or the other handle. Now that we got that, we confirmed that that works. We'll go ahead and try the key just to make sure the key works. And make sure you push that in. Works great. Okay, now we're ready to hang the door. Okay. You may need a partner for this. This can be a little difficult by yourself, but you go ahead and lift that up. Get that started in the pocket like that. And then we'll go ahead and put our screws in. One. Sometimes you also have to lift up and down to get that in there. Okay, let's try the door. Make sure it's unlocked. Lift up on the handle. Perfect. Now the same process works on the inactive door if you have the multi-point on the inactive door as well. It's the same as this one. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope this video helped you out. If this video helped you out, please hit the subscribe button on the bottom, and that helps me out. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.